Welcome to the Nuclear Snail channel. This episode is about noob costumes and what makes them. What commonalities do noob costumes have and how to progress beyond that. Let's start with the latter point. As with any endeavor, you just gradually get better in every aspect over time. There is no quick solution to that. Still, it's useful to understand what the most common noob mistakes are. It's fine if you're making those. Just know that those are mistakes in the most cases. As usual, nothing is absolute. Those are just like rules of thumb. So thanks to everybody who has submitted their pictures under my post asking for pictures, because I alone have some noob pictures of myself as well, but not nearly enough. If there is a photographer mentioned, their name is gonna be in the file name as well, just as the name of the person submitted. Alright, so let's dive right into it. And I will be roasting, obviously, but you have all submitted knowingly, thanks to you again. And just rest assured that I love all of you, and it's great that you have hopefully moved on from the noobness pictured. So, what common things do noob costumes have? And how do we move on from that? Now, let's actually start with the latter point. Here I noted a couple of useful techniques. So you have to look with neutral eyes at your costume and not trust your moods and feelings. Trust your eyes. In short, what that means is you have those amazing stories and moods and emotions in your head after playing Fallout, after watching Mad Max, all of those good things. And then, as you are working on your costume, which might look like this, which is far from Fallout or Mad Max look, you are beginning going in that direction, and that emotional driving force which inspires you, however, also taints your perception of how far you actually are with your costume, if that makes sense. So you have to kind of separate the power that drives you, the inspiration that drives you, the emotion that drives you. You have to not let it into the part where you judge your costume, where you just look at it as if you were looking at the costume of someone you do not know and do not care about. So you have to let go of this, oh, I've spent a week doing this and that, oh, it's my baby, oh my god, like, it needs to be good, it's good, I'm good, whatever. You have to decouple all of that stuff from your feeling of self-worth, and you also have to couple your judging abilities from your emotional state, where you are the wasteland adventurer from that computer game or whatever, but in reality you look like a guy with mismatched normal camo pants and a striped leather jacket which do not vibe together whatsoever. So this is one of those things. You should also watch my Fundamentals of Costume Design and Art in General video. A lot of good advice in that if you want a deep dive, which you absolutely need if you want to ever get really good. And also in my memorable costumes video. It is very long but also very useful, but I'll give you a rough summary of the most important points. A costume will always be judged by raw effort, how difficult was it to make, period. By technical skill, how technically difficult were the techniques used, can anybody do them, or do they require a lot of skill? Aesthetics, how beautiful it looks, how well balanced visually. Concept, is the idea interesting, or is it kind of bleh and generic without any twist? And in which year did you make it? Because a lot of those things, if they're made in 2015, then it looks kind of great. If they're made today, then maybe not. I pegged this one at somewhere in the earlier era. It was really good. Nowadays we would say not enough distressing, not enough weathering, not enough wasteland costume parts such as tires or other improvised stuff, and so on and so forth, just as an example. I don't have specifics on this. I just know she moved on way past that. Those are all beginner submissions that we have in here. With a couple of exceptions of people either being really good right off the bat or just humble bragging for some reason. So, let's move on with the common noob mistakes. So what we will see a lot of times, and by the way, I will not be able to critique each one of them. In fact, I will not be going around critiquing stuff a lot, because that's not the point. Rather, you have, being nice as you are, supplied illustration material for me. So it's not about me critiquing your ages-old costumes. But we will find illustrations to many of these points. So common items that are not rare or cool with barely any mods to them, making up the majority of the costume. I have some great example. Well, let's start with myself. For example, here on the left. Yeah, it's a scarf, it's a short, it's a normal belt with a normal knife with normal pants. And that's pretty much it. Same thing here, just more of that kind of stuff. Like, it's a bit better here. But not by far. We have this standard roller skating knee protector as shoulder pad. Sure, some repurposing, but come on, everybody does that. So very common items, barely modded, no weathering. Short, another short on top of that, normal cowboy hat. Claudio over here is doing better. Like, this collar is unique. It's not something you see all the time. The whole thing is also more loaded, but I'm really not doing great here. So common items, we will see that so many times. Like, we talked about this already. Standard camo pants, barely modded, standard leather jacket. I will not ride this point to death. Here is just another example, but you will see that with almost all of those to some extent. So this is an airsoft event, obviously, and Jason here is looking like an airsofter, with all the standard items you would an airsofter expect. Like, if you say, imagine a cliche airsofter, that's it. Obviously, this has some visual complexity to it, but it's still just a standard black chest rig or carrier or whatever, and with standard stuff, standard everything. Nothing's been done to that, and so on. Here's another example. This could actually be a nice base. Like, the base layer of someone is not that different from, like, experienced costumers to beginners. This would just need a little bit more dirt, but otherwise, problem here, and with many similar costumes, here we have another example, it just stops there, you know. So for a lot of noobs, their look is incomplete because they haven't progressed beyond the base. Here's my example, and note, this is not my best costume. I just wore this on Wasteland Weekend because A, I wanted to be cool, in the sense of, like, thermally cool, not to wear thick armor. So I gave my armor to Elliot and instead opted for this harness, which makes up the majority of the look. Underneath, it's just a shirt, certainly with more detail here and stuff. Although we have a wound here, we have a wound here, but we have some more detail here, a bit better dirt work. I've put a lot of research into that stance of there is, like, authentic Japanese writing and whatnot, because it's supposed to be from a bilingual bunker, stuff like that. But still, it's a short in the end, even if a much better one than this, and it's not a great base layer or greatly different than someone else might have. Short is a short, right? It's what's happening on top of that. And here I have this custom harness with a lot of cool stuff going on. Those unusual carabiners, unusual flight gear thing stuff, belts, and this mystery element here on the shoulder. Like, what is it? I won't tell you what it is right now. I did in one of my videos, but, you know, it being some mysterious element and some forms and shapes and items that you don't usually see and immediately identify as a roller skating pad, that adds to the story, that adds to the depth of it. So using just regular items, for example, completely ruins the cyborg costume here. The fact that it's based on a motorcycle padding. Again, in 2013, this would have been great. And if I meet a person wearing this today on a LARP, I will also be like role-playing like it's the best cyborg ever to keep up the immersion. But I would still be kind of thrown off by this if I think too much about the costume itself. The solution here is obviously custom parts, things that look more custom and rare and unique than the motorcycle jacket that everyone has. It's fine to start like this, and it's also possible to use those items and modify those items and so on. I've made a video with Chris from Red Roach about most cliche items and how to actually use them well, but if you just leave them barely modified, this is our point here. Let's take this one as the next one, lack of layers. That is, again, something that happens when you are a beginner. You barely have any layers. Here's a short, sure, with the pant holders here. Here's pants, and that's it. Brandon here showing that this amazingly, not only are the, like, that's a Batman shirt, that's a standard leather jacket with some distressing or maybe not, standard jeans, and also complete lack of layers. Like, yeah, you have a belt, but that's it. That's what a lot of beginners look like. I would also count this as not a lot of layers because it's also all like kind of black in black, and there is, well, no weathering. This is an obvious huge point. I have it somewhere here, I don't know, but obviously weathering makes a huge difference. And we have no weathering whatsoever on so many of the Newb costumes, or minimal weathering. Basically, you should do more weathering than you should in most cases, unless you're one of those people that just drown their clothes. And if you're one of the drowners, keep in mind that a very dirty, bad costume is still a bad costume. So sometimes beginners, fall over the other side of the horse. But usually it's a lack of weathering that happens at the very start. And then they go like, oh shit, I should weather it up. And then it's all too weathered. So don't do that either. So I was talking about layers, and for example here we do not have a lack of layers. Actually, we have this hard layer here, we have the layer underneath, then we have the netting, then we have the pants, we have a couple of layers going on here as well. But this, the face expression is amazing, but this costume is a Newb costume because it uses all the cliche items that are absolutely standard. Basically, if you're unable to tell whether or not this person was supposed to be just a gothic metal person, and a good-looking one at that, that's not what we're talking about here. Like, it's overall aesthetically nice, but it's not a wasteland costume. This is. Or not a post-apocalyptic. By wasteland, I mean a wasteland apocalypse, not necessarily wasteland weekend, although obviously on wasteland weekend you want to look like a wastelander, not like zombie apocalypse. But anyway, like a lot of people who use scene clothing, as in like metal or punk or goth or whatever, think they look like this guy, Turkey Moore, whom I specifically asked to use his picture for this video. Because he pulls it off on a masterful level. This is a masterwork. Everything is greatly integrated. There is a lot of wasteland stuff going on. And then, actually, everything except this short and a couple of patches is really, really wastelanded. But then the overall shape is kind of, with this high cap and everything, also in the hood, it's kind of inspired by some modern cultures and subcultures and whatnot. It looks great. It is very difficult to pull something off like this. A lot of people who try this will look like this, which, again, it's aesthetically pleasing. It's a nice gothic look, or metal look, or whatever you want to name it. It's just not wasteland. Or, again, like this. It's trying to be wasteland, kind of, but all the standard items. So, remember, your scene items are standard items. Pretty much same deal here as here. It's just, your standard gothic gear. If you couldn't tell whether or not a person is just going to a metal festival or just demonstrating some street fashion like here, or if they're supposed to be a wastelander, well, then they're not wastelanded up enough. She has some amazing photos posted recently in the Nuclear Snail community group. She progressed a lot, but these are some of the beginner works, and everything is a cliche item. There is a severe lack of layers, and the layers that do happen, they're kind of chaotic and so, a great example. Let's move to the next point. Well, lack or inconsistency of weathering, I don't think that needs much of a comment by this point on this channel. Over-reliance on cliches and in choice of materials and ideas, and while cliche ideas can be done well, they rely 100% on the other points other than concept. So talking about these points here. So yes, not everything needs to be Donald Duck with an ass destroyer chainsaw. I don't know what this is actually doing as a noob costume submission because it's top level. But if it isn't that or something else conceptually and visually really interesting, such as this, for example, or this, then it better be aesthetically and technically very well done with a lot of raw effort. If that happens, then it can still be a good costume. This is like a short outtake from my memorable costumes video. I talk about this and many more things in insane detail in that video, so check that one out. So you do not need to invent something absolutely amazing right off the bat. It's enough if you use a couple of interesting items that are not completely cliche. And for example, Claudio here was aiming for like a sort of a scavenger tunnel crawler look, mercenary something. I think it's great. It has some really nice forearm protection. Makes me think of a stalker who encounters mutants a lot, maybe. So they bite him into the forearm and he doesn't want to be bit. It's working for that reason. Although by today's standard, he obviously also improved. It needs more weathering. But the visual complexity and amount of layers of this doesn't lack layers. This has a lot of layers. This has some freaky, interesting items. This has a great base suit, which is this flight suit, unlike my freaking t-shirt. So this is performing really well. Let me check my recording. Yes, it's working. Okay. So, let us move on to the next point. So yeah, cliche ideas. That was our current one. You don't need to invent something entirely new, nor can you as a beginner. Just move on, more layers, more interesting base items, and integrate them well. Here is a great example of shoulder protection integrated badly. It just clashes color-wise. Like, yeah, you can make colorful costumes in the apocalypse, but this right now just looks slapped together. Lack of coherency, lack of things looking like they belong together, which we have here. Like, this looks tuned to itself, right? Let's move on to next points. Lack of cohesion. That, yeah, you can take parts from different sources, but intonation is on from. You take parts from different sources and bring them together visually and conceptually. That's the idea in the post-apocalypse. Because let's be honest, I'm also one of those people back then on my first fantasy LARPs. I was going for a look of someone who has just random clothes from here and there. I was on a budget, I had no idea about costuming, all that. So it was a good excuse to just play a character who has a throw it together kind of kit. Still, it's a good idea to have unifying weathering. So if there was a unifying weathering applied to all of this would already almost do the entire job, but also bring them together visually in like by applying some belts that fit or some other small details to bring those things together spatially or functionally, if you will. And yeah, colors are a big deal. And here I had a great example of where something stands out in a bad way. Where did I move it to? Come on. There was a great example with a red belt really clashing with the rest of the concept. Did I remove it? Come on, please. Where are you, lady with the red belt? Show yourself. I want to show your example. Here it is. So, overall, like this belt, because of the lack of weathering, and because of also the lack of weathering on the black below the netting, it just stands out in an incoherent way. So, yeah, A point I didn't note, but one that PJ Raid here illustrates greatly, especially if we compare his current absolutely amazing costume with this noob costume that he had a long while ago. Uneven edges, bad fit, and overall not minding your brush stroke, so to say. Like if you were to paint a picture, you would probably prefer a brush stroke that is not jittery and bad and all over the place, right? But here we have like these edges don't match, these edges don't match, it's all wicked and crooked. It's just not fitting itself well. It's not fitting him well. He looks like a presswurst in this, like a pressed sausage in there. And like, yeah, the basic concept of a raider or something with that armor and whatever is there, but ugh. And also those layers very unesthetically just slapped on top of each other with some random paint and stuff. Just so much noobness in this. And I'm actually gonna reveal this in Explorer and play this with Windows thingy. Wait, no, image preview, there we go. Because for some reason WhatsApp images do not show in Adobe Bridge, go figure. Now this is his current stuff and it's awesome. You see those many layers. You see that there are different colors and stuff, but they are all kind of blending together because of how shredded the whole thing is. And the weathering that is kind of unifying the whole look. And we have very hard surfaces with metal, but we also have soft surfaces with fabric. So it's a material contrast that also happens here. And the mask has been repurposed nicely and with some added teeth or whatever, and it's overall looking very nice. My only improvement idea would be some sort of a decal or small skull or other decoration, something very important on this large unused area on the helmet. But other than that, the whole thing is one of the best costumes, period, that I've seen in any genre. And that's a huge improvement, wouldn't you agree? So many layers, material contrast, even despite having different colors, they're all unified. There is a lot of weathering going on, and compare it to this piece of crap. So, yeah. You versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Now, moving on. Fit and proportion, we kind of talked about this just now, so this is a terrible fit. It's kind of just all over the place. Like, it just doesn't fit his body form or maybe any humans in general. It looks uncomfortable. No. Not the only example, of course, but, you know. I don't have actually many examples for that. Actually, on the most examples I have here, the proportions and stuff are usually fine. Like maybe here a bit, like these belts, like you have a belt here, a belt here, a belt here. It looks like the torso is very long because of those belts and the leather stuff going on here. But it's not too terrible. Anyway, moving on to the next point. Storytelling details missing. Yeah, that happens a lot with beginners. And I also have an opposite point, or only some tiny detail had work put into it, and that's it. And then again, we're back to this topic of your emotions tainting your perception. What do I mean? Here is an example. I've put a lot of work into this dog tag here, had it lasered and decorated it a bit. Unfortunately, I don't have a better image of this. But this part of my costume looked amazing. And so does the tiny commander shoulder snail here, and maybe another bit and bob somewhere on the bag. And I had like those 3 extremely small but very well worked hot spots, so to say, and the rest of the costume is still crap. But then I focused so much on me having worked those tiny spots that I have somehow the feeling that my costume is great, but it's really not. Because if you look at it objectively with neutral eyes, then you will see that those occupy like 1% of the entire costume. Yes, details are important, and on a lot of costumes you will miss some critical, interesting storytelling details like this. Like, okay, here is like a faction patch, there is some painting going on the helmet and like a playing card. Okay, so far so good, but where is the rest of the story here, for example? Just the base, not much going on, and there could be a thick freaking armor on top of this as well. It's still not happening, but the interesting story details. So the story details need to happen. Like, there is a lot of story detail here. That's a post-apocalyptic Waldo. Probably could have been worked a bit better here and there aesthetically, but it's not bad, and it's a great concept, and it's one of those things that are not really a noob submission, so it's good. So storytelling details, again, such as like here on my shoulder, or also here on my belly. I like making those. It's pretty cheap. Some fabric paint, and then cut and stitch, and it looks like you've been shot or stabbed or whatever. Adds some story to the whole thing. We have a lot of storytelling elements going on here, actually. We have this spiky bat, we have those insignias, she looks like a warlord. So that's a full character concept. We don't have that many storytelling details here. It's a different costume by the same person, by the way. Here we have just a gothic girl with some revealing underwear, and that's pretty much it. No storytelling stuff, no distressing, and so on. Here is a big storytelling thing, but how about like working it also into the jacket and so on? I mean, this is the one of the best examples, because it's just like so basic. And yeah, let's move to the next one. Cheap, flimsy materials. It's less about them being cheap than looking cheap, and by cheap I don't necessarily mean like low quality, because a lot of times, like, I usually use kind of higher quality materials. For example, I hate fake leather. I've made an entire video about how much I hate fake leather for different reasons. Some people love it. Power to you. I don't understand it, but whatever. What I mean here is kind of more in line with the thing with like non-rare and common items that are usually also like cheap, like again, like this skating pad. And mind you, you can modify those items and materials and enhance them in such a way that it becomes a great base for something better, or you work it over so much that it is no longer defined by it being that cheap common item from cheap materials, but it transcends and becomes something else. So let's move on to the next item. Having a small junk crate or no junk crate at all. Obviously, as a beginner, you don't yet have a lot of stuff to craft from, but I do have a video detailing where and how and what to get, and in terms of crafting materials, because that allows you to have so many more possibilities, right? If you don't have a lot of possibilities, then you do not have a lot of chances to really improvise from. So watch that video, the one where I talk about getting supplies. And this is something that is easily fixable by having even a small junk crate with a kind of wide-ish selection of like a couple of materials and items and whatnot. And do hunt for those special items, right? We really want to have, where is he? Something like this collar, rather than having just a tank top, right? So this is a big difference. Now, bad makeup. I don't actually have examples of this here. I only have examples of some good makeup. Where was he? Where was he? Here it is. This is some nice makeup going on here. So some good makeup can make the whole costume better. Some bad makeup will mess it up. And it's better to have no makeup than really badly done one. But when I say bad, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's basic. It can be basic, but still pretty good. For example, here, this is kind of basic, but I would not necessarily say it's bad. It fits the whole rest of the whole theme, and it kind of works, and it's not too bad. Is this bad makeup? Yeah, I would say so. Whatever the hell is going on here, they have much better costumes since then, so Yeah, but this was not good makeup. The costume itself is fine, actually. It could be better, but I don't hate it. Especially like the soft termination here. And the dog tag fits really nicely. Didn't I just say dog tags and other standard military stuff and blah? No. If you combine it well, then again we are at something like this. Like, spirit-wise. More of a combining your standard thing into a whole theme that is very Wastelandish. Do you have to be all rusty and janky and whatever? Like, is this not post-apocalyptic? It could be. Would need some more dirt and whatever. But all in all, it looks like a member of some faction where death ladies kill people with chains while wearing white clothes. The tearing effect here is pretty good. The boots are kind of a bit too scene, manga, or whatever else. I don't know. It kind of just doesn't evoke Wasteland associations, and overall, as I said, a bit dirt. But like all in all, this is not bad. This is actually pretty good. What is this doing in Newb submissions? This is Newb stuff. But it's good to have a couple of good examples to go with the whole stuff, so we can see some examples of stuff not being Newb. For example, here, Barely Roman. Never been a noob, supposedly the first costume. So I guess he's one of those people that have never been actual noobs. Because this is highly detailed and yeah, great makeup here as well. Everything just works, so yeah. Yeah. Some beginnings of a basic tire armor here with just one layer of tires and that's it. And then some pants and stuff. I'm not sure if he's going to the toilet here or something, but I sure hope so, because that's what you usually look like if you take off all of your gear. Otherwise, where is the rest of the gear? Alright, moving on to the next part. Bad fit of the costume to you conceptually. I have some good examples for that, actually. Here, John Mayer. Probably fits John Mayer. I mean, I have never seen him from the front, I think. But so far, with the whole shoulder decorations and stuff, and the costume being made from striped suits, that fits a post-apocalyptic mayor. Just would wish there was a bunch more chains and decorations and insignia and whatnot all over the whole costume to make it more regal, more royal. But otherwise, I'm pretty sure it's an interesting concept and that it looks cool and fits the person. Even from the back, I can kind of tell. A lot of people will go for the warrior or mercenary look. It doesn't fit everyone, at least not with each styling. Like in here, for example, the styling should be very different. Different glasses, different, makeup or makeup at all to begin with, some sort of tactical gear on the head as well, or like some wastelandish gear, because like the whole head and hair part looks like it would fit like a vault dweller with a computer terminal, mobile computer terminal, or drone pilot at least kind of thing. It looks kind of nerdy, which is not an insult. It can be a great, interesting character. In fact, the more you make an interesting character who's not just a wastelander or a fighter or a mercenary, which is what I do all the time, the more interesting it can become. But to go with this wastelander gear, this whole head and glasses and like all of that, if you were to draw this as a character for a computer game, it would be like, no, that doesn't look quite right. Like either style differently in the head and face area, or roll with the nerd vibes, or intellectual poet or artist maybe, because like this doesn't look like a warrior. This is supposed to like a noob warrior, okay, because it's a noob costume. You know what I mean. Just try and match the costume to you or yourself to the role, so don't leave out the part that is you. You are a crucial part of your costume. And I'm pretty sure Kasper by now is doing stuff that suits him and he himself suits his stuff. Suits, interesting word. When your suit suits you. Okay, let's move on. That's pretty much all, really. I don't want to make this video insanely long. I'm just gonna randomly click on a couple of pictures. I'm sorry I cannot critique everyone. Again, it was never the intention. I probably left out the half of you. Please don't be mad. You served as a great illustration material for me. It was never about going through all the pictures. It was about having enough pictures to illustrate my points. And I think with your help, I was successful doing so. Let me know what you think. But let's do like 5 more and see if our points apply here. So this, I actually, it's similar to my costume here. And I also have one like this where I stand on the thing in an epic pose. And this looks like a tank crew member with a tank top and dog tags and stuff. Basically same as me here, really. And yeah, basic items, no or little distressing, uninteresting concept. Moving on. Yeah, standard airsoft, as we already mentioned, with everything being standard airsoft. Like stuff like this doesn't save you from noobness, because it's a very cliche thing to paint your mask with some teeth or whatever. Like, just that will not do the trick. A lot of noobs think it will, but it won't. And I'm pretty sure Jason also moved on since then to better costumes. A civilian costume, that much I can tell. What I wish I could tell is what kind of civilian. Is it a medic? Is it some sort of also a mayor or politician? I can't quite tell, so not enough storytelling devices here. And actually on this, I wouldn't say it needs much more weathering, because if you're a civilian, you don't get that much. You know, you kind of try to keep tidy a bit more than the warriors and explorers and scavengers and all that. But I wish there was more storytelling elements to convey better what exact kind of civilian this is supposed to be. Moving on to this guy, Kristen Fritz. So I do like how those bags vibe with the catcher's gear. I do like the combination of the catcher's gear with the shoulder pads. But if we look just at the football shoulder pads, then it's kind of unmodified item, so no weathering, no additional layers on top of it to kind of reinforce it, both physically and artistically. So the shoulder pads do look kind of lame on their own, but I do like the combination of them with the catcher gear and the bags and stuff. It's not bad, it's just that the shoulder pads would really need some more inspiration. Dan Thompson. Cannot zoom in, but it's also not necessary, because your costumes are supposed to be recognizable as something interesting and cool from afar. And here I see just a regular biker. And that's all I can say. Our typical, you know, just common items and standard items, standard black short, vest, whatever stuff going on. Ben Greenbaum, who in the face and with the glasses and the haircut looks kind of like the singer from Sabaton. Some lack of weathering to really represent a wastelander, and some cool freaky shoulder stuff going on here in the silhouette. I wish I knew what it was, but here we have again like just some boring shoulder pads and riot gear legs and stuff. It's like, yeah, severe lack of weathering and severe lack of layers and all that. It needs more stuff. Otherwise, just looks like, well, it could be just a random biker, really. And let's do a last one for shits and giggles. This is... yeah. Okay, colors in the apocalypse can be nice, but here we have a typical lack of cohesion thing. We have lots of undistressed black. We have this fur thing doing God knows what, and the whole thing kind of is a bit like it needs a unifying layer of weathering everywhere and a bit of cleaning up aesthetically. So more order, in order for those chaotic and colorful pieces in the hair and the shin guards and stuff, probably the chest, to really bring their colors to bear and to be the main thing that's going on. Because those are chaotic things and we want them to be chaotic, but we also want the rest of the costume to kind of follow suit and kind of get out of the way a bit, and we do that by unifying grunge and also especially taking care of the blacks, because those never look post-apocalyptic. It always looks kind of metal or goth. And I have a video about how to distress black clothing. It can absolutely be done. You just need to be patient that you need to apply contrasting colors to it, because you cannot distress black with black. Okay, and I don't want to make this video very, very long. Again, thank you to everyone, including the people whom I did not click on. Still, your help was amazing. Thank you so much. I'll do this one as well for shits and giggles, just because, while it looked amazing for a zombie apocalypse kind of person, it looks like a firefighter in the zombie apocalypse. But those stickers and those decals, like Zombie Outbreak Response Team, it's like such an out time thing for me. It's like, you know, it's a cool thing to have in real life, like on your car or your t-shirt, to let other real world people know that you're a zombie LARPer. But while you're there, like, why? Those usually ruin everything. Now, other than that, for a zombie apocalypse, this is great. Okay, as I've said, I don't want to make this video super long. Thanks to everybody, including the ones that I did not click on, such as this amazing horror apocalypse NPC. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. Support me on Patreon, link is in the video description. Join the Nuclear Snail community group. And until next time, have fun crafting, always keep improving, and hail the snail.